The African Continental Free Trade Area is ready for use. You can today, as we sit here, trade on the AFCFTA using the AFCFTA documents and procedures. You can look for trade and investment opportunities as local governments, as individuals today on the AFCFTA and actually go ahead to export or to import products on the AFCFTA market. So that's the first message. The AFCFTA is ready. Nobody should tell you that it's not ready. All right. Now, as to whether Zimbabwe can do that, whether Zimbabwe on its part is also ready, that's a matter we shall discuss a little bit further. Then the second message, which I suggest you could take away from this presentation, is that local administrations yourselves have a fundamental role to play in the utilization of the AFCFTA. If the AFCFTA is to be of any real value, then you, the local administrations, are indispensable actors. So that is the second message. And I was very happy to hear that it's actually, you have a constitutional role to make sure that development happens across the country, especially at the grassroots levels. So that's the second message, that you have a very important role to play as local administrations. The third one is that you as individuals, I'm not talking about your official hats. I'm talking about individuals, you as individuals, have a role to play as well. Each and every one of us has a role to play. You know that story of somebody who got $1 billion. I think it was a lottery. They won. Oh, actually, three people, yes. One of them, they all wanted to change the world, to do something good. But the first one started analyzing what to do. So he analyzed. And all his life he was analyzing what to do. What's the best thing to do? And then he got old and didn't do anything with that man. Still analyzing. Right? The second one thought he was so important, so he was waiting to be recognized. So he sat there waiting for people to come to him and beg him, so that he could give them a bit of his money, so that he could tell them what they should do. And also, he grew old and nothing happened because he kept on just waiting and arguing with people on what to do. The third one simply jumped up and said, what should we do? And he did little things incrementally until there was change or structural transformation. So I hope that you can be like the third one as individuals. I think there's someone who used to say, be the change that you want. Yes. So don't sit there thinking somebody else will do it. No, you do it yourself. Do it as if it all depends on you. And trust as if it all depends on God. I think I can say that because Michelle started us off with a prayer. So I think we can talk like that as well. I'm sure you have heard about that as well. So that is what I hope we can take away from this presentation. Now the outline is beamed there. And I also wanted to structure it in a very simple way. Namely, what is the AFCFTA? So that's the first segment of the presentation. So after that presentation, you should be able to know what the AFCFTA is. And it's very simple. Then the second one is, what is the value proposition of the AFCFTA? In other words, why is it important? Why are people talking about it on the continent and across the world? And then thirdly, where are we coming from? You know that saying that if you don't know where you're coming from, you probably don't know where you are going as well. Right? So we need a background, some context. And then next, where are we now? Where do things stand? What's the state of play? And then lastly, where are we going? What are the pathways forward? Or what should we do now? All right? Now that we know where we're coming from and where we are. Right. So now, what is the AFCFTA? So, though the name African Continental Free Trade Area contains the words Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA is much, much bigger than a free trade area. A free trade area normally concerns reducing customs duties or barriers to imports into your country. And of course, also as a country, when you're exporting, also reducing imports, barriers on your imports into the next country or into the other country. On goods, goods are things that you can drop on your foot, all right? Any chair, any bottle, anything that you can drop, that's a good. And in the world, it's estimated that there are more than 5,000 goods that are traded across the world. But the AFCFTA is more than just reducing barriers to imports. It's also about services. What are services? Services are things that you need, things that are traded but that you cannot drop on your foot. All right? Things like communications. All right, can you drop communications on your foot? You can't. Right. Things like transport services. You can use lorries or trucks or what, but as a service, you really cannot point your finger to it. But you can point your finger to the gadgets or things that you use. Tourism is a service, and Zimbabwe is big at tourism. Financial services, of course, you can point at money, at banks, but it's also considered a service. And this includes insurance as well. Right. So these are examples of services. And then investment. The AFCFTA also covers investment. It also covers digitalization. It also covers competition. And it also covers dispute settlement. We shall get more into this. And then it's not a neoliberal project. So it's not just about opening up or liberalization. We trade with a view to achieving socio-economic transformation. We want to create jobs. We would like people to have decent incomes. That's why trade happens. So it's a development tool. That's what the AFCFTA is. And in creating one African market, it's going to be a game changer. It's going to change everything. Because we had never in the history of Africa had one continental market. This is the first time that we are going to have one continental market. And as you will see, it's a large market. So anyway, the simple message here is that the AFCFTA is more than a free trade area, because people think, oh, it's just about reducing tariffs to trade. No. It's a lot more than reducing tariffs to trade. It has more activities, but also it aims for socio-economic transformation. It aims to create jobs and decent jobs as such, and improve living standards of the people. So now, as I've been saying, you consider the AFCFTA covers goods, services, investment, competition, intellectual property, digitalization, women and youth in trade, and dispute settlement, under an agreement which is in force, and Zimbabwe has signed and ratified it. This means that Zimbabwe has an obligation to implement it, but also rights. It has rights. If any other country on the continent does something which Zimbabwe thinks is a violation of its rights, then Zimbabwe can enforce that right or claim that right. So we aim to once and for all permanently deal with the problem of the Balkanization of Africa, balkanization, division of Africa into small, small countries, 55 of them. Some of these countries have a population of 100,000 people. You can actually put them in one stadium, a football stadium. So we would like to create one African market, and permanently we deal with the balkanization of the continent. And we want to promote inclusive structural transformation, creating decent jobs and improving living standards. Therefore, the objectives of the AFCFTA are set out in Article 3. So it's not just guesswork. This is actually written down in Article 3, and it's to achieve structural transformation and improve living standards. And the private sector have a very important role as well to play. So you will need to be interacting with the private sector as well. And that's why I'm sure we have the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries. Through an approach which is broad, which includes markets, industrialization, infrastructure, macroeconomic stability, inclusiveness, and innovation. So actually we have identified these sectors as key levers to begin with. So agro-processing, automotives, pharmaceuticals, transport and logistics, and then digital trade. But we shall see in other presentations an analysis of what the strengths of Zimbabwe are in terms of trade and investment opportunities. So that's what the AFCFTA is. Now, what's the value proposition? Why is everybody talking about it? Actually, literally everybody is talking about the AFCFTA. You go to international organizations, to meetings of international organizations, whether it is in the Middle East, whether it's in the US, in Europe, of course on the continent, in Turkey, in Singapore, in China, people are talking about the AFCFTA. Why? Yes, sir, please. Yes. Yes, please.
Everybody's talking of the AFCFTA, which is a very good idea. And you are saying we should have one market. And we do have these other economic blocks currently in existence. For example, SADC, ECOWAS, COMESA, PTA, whose objectives are to foster economic development. So what will happen then after that? Are they going to be swallowed automatically when this one now being the one common market?
Right, I think this is a very good question coming from local government. Right. So the simple answer is that they are not going to be swallowed, You said swallowed. They are not going to be swallowed. Yes. Just like you have got the central government in Zimbabwe here, and then the local administrations. So what's going to happen is that you are going to have these continental structures. The African Union is going to continue to be there. But then you will need local administrations, the equivalent of local administrations. So the RECs may serve as these local administrations. You know how big Africa is? Africa is 30 million square kilometers. That's really big. It means you can fit into Africa geographically. The US, Europe, China, India, all these, you can actually get them and squeeze them into the continent. So you cannot run Africa from Addis Ababa or from Ghana. It's just too big. And that's why even as we speak now, you look around the continent. You see the African Union, it has offices. It has regional offices. You see even the ECA, it has regional offices. You see the African Peace and Security Architecture. That's the continental body for peace and security. It still works with the SADC peace transition. So this also makes Africa very attractive, and therefore we can exercise some leverage in dealing with the rest of the world. Right, so this is what I've been talking about. I'm sure you can see it very clearly. There are two boxes there. The first one to the left summarizes what I've been saying, and then the one to did I say left or right? The left, yes. The one to the right has some strategic points that you can maybe wish to take into account, such as a clear vision, we want to be one market, a narrative, we have actually got it written down and we talk about it all the time. We have got the energy and we undertake relentless diplomatic agency. Political agility, we have been able to take decisions which have brought us to where we are. Right, and these are the numbers that I was beginning to talk about. 17.8% of the global population, that's the population, how many we are. We're actually 1.47 billion people. Right, we are now more than the Chinese and the Indians. They used to be more than us, but I think Africans are very busy all the time. Yeah. Then we are a young continent, 18.8 years, and then we shall be 25% of the world's global population. We have 28% of the UN vote. This is why people are courting us. They always want us to be on their side in geopolitical games. Right, and we have got 60% of the world's unused arable land. That speaks to things like food security and nutrition security. So when it comes to trade, people argue that Africa should be one country. Right, so I was telling you about how big the African economy is. So these are the numbers, which you can see for yourself there. So if Africa was one country, you can see the ranking that we would be enjoying as the fourth largest economy in the whole world. And then the impact of the AFCFTA, I don't know whether you at the back can see, but this presentation will be circulated so you can see how much is going to be gained in the various sectors when the AFCFTA is implemented. It's going to increase intra-Africa trade, but also in the various sectors, the trade is going to be enormous. That will be increased. And then I was telling you about profitability. So if you break it down, you can even see profitability according to the sectors. But it's quite high. The top sector there, profitability is actually 28.3%. Right, and then I was just beginning to talk about the green minerals as well. Africa has lots of them, and we can try to ensure that as Zimbabwe, as other countries, we foster industrialization around green minerals. Now that you have them, let them not just be dug and taken out unprocessed. If you want inspiration for this, then you can look to Botswana, but I'm sure you don't need this inspiration. Botswana was exporting raw diamonds, and it woke up one day and said, no, now we need a new policy. We are going to ban the exportation of raw minerals. They are going to be cut and polished first in this country before they are exported. The objective, of course, was to create money, to create jobs within the economy, decent incomes, and that was part of their industrialization drive. And of course, the multinationals say, no, this is not investment friendly. We are going to go away. But Botswana stood its ground, and the policy was enforced. Those companies did not leave. They are still there, including De Beers. And diamonds are being cut and polished in Botswana. And I think the economy is doing quite well as a result of that policy. Right, so that is the value proposition of the AFCFTA. In summary, we are a force to reckon with. We are an important global player if we act as one, both economically and politically. We are more attractive to our own investors as well if we create and make it a reality, this one African economy or market. Right, now where are we coming from? So we have traveled a long journey, and we have been aspiring over the ages, like any human being. It's not just Africans. It's not because we're Africans. It's any human being. We aspire for unity. Of course, the European Union, they have been aspiring for unity for many ages. You go to Latin America, they also aspire for unity. You go to Asia, they also aspire for unity. So we have been aspiring for unity. And we would like to live in peace and prosperity. This is written in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But in our case, we also have other issues that we have had to take into account. Not just slavery, but colonization as well. We have wanted to be free, to achieve decolonization. So that's why we have got many individuals, two of whom have their photos there, Nkrumah and Nyerere, who have led the struggle for the decolonization of Africa and for our liberty. So some of the key timelines, if you'd like to have a look at them, you can go back as far as you like. But if you begin from 1900, that's when we convened the first Pan-African conference. The idea that we need to work together, we can only get this done together. 1963, the formation of the OAU. 1991, the formation of the African Economic Community. 2000 to 2002, the African Union. 2006, the regional economic communities. We had too many. We recognized 8 of them. 2010, the Conference on Boosting Intra-Africa Trade. We said it's too low. We need to increase it. 2013, Agenda 2063, which Mr. Wazanai, I think, was talking about, what it seeks to achieve. And then 2018, that's we concluded negotiations for the first phase of the AFCFTA. 2019, it entered into force, and 2021, we started trading. And by February this year, we had actually finished negotiating all the protocols which I have been mentioning in the various areas I have been mentioning. We just need to complete details or annexes. Right, and then going forward, according to the Abuja Treaty, or the treaty adopted in 1991, establishing the African Economic Community, we are supposed to be working now towards a common African market between now and 2028. And then between 2028 and 2034, we're supposed to have the African Economic Community. That's a single currency and common monetary policies. That's what an economic community is. So it's a long journey we have traveled, and are we any wiser? So some of the challenges we have been facing are those ones. Implementation has been the biggest one. The geopolitical situation, like the war in Ukraine, it is not our cause, but it affects us, right? Legacy issues, we need a mindset change. We tend to downplay innovation or the power of our minds. Without innovation, we are not going to go anywhere. Wrong narratives. For some reason, we are wedded to thinking that all terrible things happen in Africa. Afro-pessimism, that we can't do it. We are only full of bad things. We don't look at good things as well, on which to build. Right, and then secretariats need to be efficient, but sometimes they are dogged with maladministration. We have situations where ministers complain that when they meet, they spend more than 90% of the time talking about administration issues, audit queries, instead of substantive issues. So anyway, there are some lessons we have learned, and those are the critical success factors that we need always to bear in mind. Leadership, political will are important, and that's why we are talking about them. Right, yes, please again, my brother, yes. Yes.
One more important risk,
yes,
which I haven't seen from there. It's political instability in other regions. I think it's a very, very big challenge.
yes,
Because Africa, there are 54 countries in Africa.
yeah,
And if I may mention that on the northern part of Africa or western part of Africa, there are a lot of political instabilities there, which I think they are very, very, it is a very, very big challenge with regards to this direction in which you want to move. All right, thank you.
yes, you're perfectly correct, my brother. What did you say your name was? Was it?
Sorry, it's a very long name. It's Chirumarara. Oh, my first name is Sign, S-I-G-N, Sign.
All right. right. Thank you so much. Yes, you're perfectly correct. You're perfectly correct. And even before going to North Africa, even in our neighborhood here, yes, we have got some political instability. And when you have wars, you cannot trade. Economic activities cannot take place. So peace and security is paramount. So you are spot on this. So that's why we need to make sure we have peace and security. So the SADC, organ, the African Peace and Security Architecture are very important. But also remember that some of the structural causes of conflict are actually lack of jobs, lack of decent incomes. When people, or especially the young people, don't have jobs or they don't have a stake in society, then you can get a lot of instability. And they can take to arms or fall prey to people who want to recruit, terrorists, things like that. So economic stability as well, economic productivity in the economy is extremely important. Right. So now this is simply some inspiration that don't think you are too small to do anything. If you think you are too small, then you haven't been bitten by a mosquito. A mosquito is so small, but it can be, a nuisance. Right. So anyway, there's this book which tries to inspire ourselves. This struggle for decolonization started off with just a few individuals. And you know all of them, of course. Yes. But it became a movement within a decade. So that's why in the 70s, in the 80s, we had a lot of decolonization being achieved. But it started off very small. Even the mapping out of the vision of continental unity, of political emancipation, economic emancipation, it was also driven just by a few individuals, but through relentless effort, it became a movement, a continental movement. So this is the inspiration that we can draw from where we have come from and also apply it to the African Continental Free Trade Area and to the way forward. So that's why we now have Agenda 2063, which now says that by the year 2063, we should be, as Mr. Watanabe reminded us, integrated, prosperous, peaceful, and efficacious. That means globally influential. We have got 15 flagship programs, and the AFCFTA is one of them. Now, my brother, just to underscore the point that you made, there's a book that we wrote with a friend of mine called Joseph Atamensa on the existential priorities for the AFCFTA. And peace and conflict is mentioned prominently. Climate change is another one mentioned prominently, right? Digitalization. There's what's called rogue intelligence, but rogue artificial intelligence, the bad one. But we need to make sure that we harness artificial intelligence to our benefit. Inclusiveness. If you marginalize people, for instance, if you leave out women, or you leave out youth, you leave out SMEs, then you are not doing much. It's just a time bomb. It's just a matter of time. And then you will have all these problems that we have been talking about. So that's why we have got a protocol on women and youth in trade. And that's why local administrations are extremely important. So where are we now? So there's the message again. So the AFCFTA agreement is in force. We have got 47 ratifications, including Zimbabwe. So we have only 8 to go. We have got oversight institutions which are in force. The Council of Ministers, for instance, has met 14 times. Together with it is committees, senior trade officials, the Committee on Goods and Services, and so on and so forth. And we have got the dispute settlement mechanism, which is up and running. We have got judges whom we have sworn in, but also we have the system for addressing non-tariff barriers. We have got tariff schedules, which can be used for trading, and we have got services schedules as well. We have got rules of origin on more than 90% of the tariff lines. We have got a manual on the rules of origin, explaining how to use it. And we have got the e-tariff book, the electronic tariff book. I'll just show you shortly how it's used. So everything is in place for trading. And that's why we have piloted what's called the Guided Trade Initiative. The Guided Trade Initiative was simply to demonstrate that it's possible to send one consignment, for instance, from Zimbabwe to Accra, or to Algeria, or to Egypt, using the AFCFTA procedures. So it actually happened on the 7th of October 2022, with the consignments being moved or shipped from countries such as Rwanda to Accra, that was a coffee consignment, Kenya to Accra, that was tea, right? And maybe someone else is going to talk about that, as well as recently from South Africa, fridges to Kenya. Right. So now, at the enterprise level, you also need to be ready. That means you need to have export and import readiness. And the test of that is if you have consignments at the set, if you have met export requirements and import requirements as well. That means, and I really need to make this point, you need to make sure you have a certificate of origin, which is issued by the competent authorities. In Zimbabwe, is it issued by ZIMRA, the Zambia Revenue Authority? Say that again? Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. What did I say? Zimbabwe, yes, Revenue Authority. Yes, so it's important to also make sure that there is readiness at the enterprise level, and local administrations can assist to prepare enterprises to be ready, working together with the ZimTrade and then ZIMRA, of course. Now, this is what I wanted to show you, but my brother, are we able to open these links, you think? For instance, can we open the one called eTariff book? Anyway, the point is, what this slide does is simply to tell you that we have got digital tools that you can use to make your trade very easy, all right? So if you want to look for a market, you have a product, but you want to know where the market is, who wants to buy your product, you can use the Africa Trade Observatory. It has dialog boxes which come up, so you type in the product you have, and it will show you where the market is, where the demand is, and by how much actually that demand is. Right. Okay, so now this is the one for the eTariff book. If you want to know which countries, I said we have 47 ratifications and 36 tariff offers. So if you want to know which countries are in a position to receive imports under the AFCFTA rules and procedures, this is the map which you can use. If you move a cursor in the shaded areas, you see, it highlights. So if you click on it, it will show you the Nigerian tariff rates or reduction rates. Or you can actually use these boxes here. Yes. You just type in the product. You see what? Okay, all right, all right. But you can see it's easy to navigate it. So you just type in the product that you want, the country you'll have selected it already. If you take off the box, click anywhere. Yes. So you just do the product description, macadamia nuts, for instance, or whatever product it is you're importing. So it has there, I'm exporting from, I'm importing into, language, and then search the product. Right. So you haven't filled in I'm exporting from. Maybe let's do because Zimbabwe doesn't highlight yet. I think the colleagues at ZIMRA haven't yet finalized it. Maybe put Kenya or something, or Botswana, for instance. Yes, or Malawi. Just click on any, yes. Malawi into Zambia, yes. You see? So now what comes, there should be numbers here, there should be rates here. It shows you the rates which will be applicable all the way up to 2030, because the rates are supposed to be reduced every year. Yeah, so here they are, yes, here they are. There. So you can do this for every product that you want to export. It gives you information on the tariff rates which will be applicable. So this is the e-tariff book. It is supposed to be very user-friendly. Right. Now, assuming you wanted to search for markets, as I said, you use the Africa Trade Observatory. If you don't want to use this one, you can go to the International Trade Center. You have heard of the International Trade Center, ITC website. It also has market intelligence tools there. Yeah, that one, yes. Yeah. So which also, such as TradeMap, InvestMap, which also tell you where the demand for your product is, and also the quantities. Oh, this one is saying what? What about non-tariff barriers? What happens when you click on that one? Oh, yes. So now this one is important. You can use it for reporting problems. Assuming you have any problem at all, you are trying to export to a certain country, and you have problems there. Either you think they have put in place rules which are unreasonable, which make it cumbersome or burdensome for you to trade, all right? Or even Zimbabwe here, internally, there are measures in place which make it impossible to trade. You can actually just use the cursors here to report what the problem is. However, you need to register. There's no fee. You don't pay anything. It's just for statistical purposes. So you need to register. Anybody, any person, provided you have internet, you can use this to report a problem. You can also see, if you look there, that side, yes, there's a part for complaints as well, which then you'll have to log in. Anyway, so I hope that you will take time to practice, have a look at these links and see what you make of them. Maybe this evening or tomorrow. And if you have any questions over the next 2 or so days, please ask, and then we shall see how we can help. But if you are familiar with this, you'll be able to help your constituencies and yourselves as well. We can go back to the presentation then. All right. Right. So now I was talking about there will be a presentation on opportunities. Now there's a study which we did looking at which sectors have got are most promising on the basis of the tariff liberalization that has taken place. We did this study for UNDP actually. yes. And we came up with those sectors across the continent. Please note that we also have lithium and batteries in there, which are extremely important. Right. Now, still talking about where we are, partnerships are extremely important, and we got lots of partnerships as AFCFTA, like you're seeing right here now. You see, I've got UNDP, ECA, but we also have lots of other partnerships as well. It means that you yourselves as well need partnerships. Continue working, please, with UNDP and diversify so that the burden doesn't fall too much on UNDP alone. Private sector involvement in decision making, it's extremely important, and that can be at the national level as well, because they can be involved in the consultations that lead to the adoption of national positions before you go into negotiations. They can also be participating in consultations that lead to adoption of policies, and in consultations that assess or evaluate the effect or impact or performance of such policies in monitoring and evaluation. They can also be part of the national delegations to various events, if you'd like to involve them, at continental and REC levels. You can prepare position papers and submit them to the Secretariat, to the government, like I think the Zimbabwe Chambers of Industry can prepare very good position papers which can be submitted to the government, but also to the Secretariat. This would be valuable input. And then participating in business forums. For instance, we have held 3 business forums called the Intra-Africa Trade Forums. And these are one-week events. But at all of them, we have been able to generate business deals estimated at $42 billion within 1 week. So you go there, you pitch your products, you show what you have, and get orders. Right. So where are we going now? Right. Oh, I see. All right. So going forward, implementation is extremely important through domestication. That means, in the case of Zimbabwe, through giving the AFCFTA the force of law within the country. That means, for instance, gazetting the Zimbabwe tariff schedule. Now, over the last week, I have been receiving mixed signals. To be honest with you, I thought I knew where the position was, but now I don't think I know very well. Do we have someone from the Ministry of Trade here? Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Oh, really? So you are going to tell us, eh? You are going to. Can you summarize briefly? Has your tariff offer been verified and accepted? This is a very critical point. Yes. Thank you so much for being around. Yes.
Thank you very much, Prof, for such a good question. In terms of the market access offer, we have submitted to the Secretariat on the, should be 12th of April this year. Then the Secretariat sent us back the market access offer with comments, and we corrected that comments. It was on about the categories, that is category A and category B. At the moment, we are waiting for the Secretariat to verify the offer. We have not yet verified the offer.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Are you the one, the contact person in Zimbabwe?
Yes, I'm the one who sent the market access offer. And
whom are you liaising with at the Secretariat? Do you remember a name?
I remember a name.
Is it Emmanuel?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm Munguma.
Eh?
I'm Munguma Lakmo. Mungumex
at
Gmail.
Okay. All right, okay. Right. So anyway, we need to get this done, solved, because when I talk to my colleagues who are dealing with this matter, they say it's done, it's just transposition.
No. That's not it. That's not the correct position. We are still waiting for the verification from the Secretariat.
Right.
That's the true position.
What about the statutory instrument of 2022?
We have transformed. They have transformed the market access offer from the HS 2017 to the HS 2022.
You've done that already?
Yes, we have done.
Really?
Yes.
Right. And when you gazetted in 2022, was that the market access offer you gazetted?
Yes.
You gazetted it?
Yes. It is now in the Harmonized System 2022.
But that was that taking into account your market access offer?
Yes, we take into account.
Right. So my own understanding, therefore, thank you so much.
You're most welcome, sir.
Yes. My own understanding, therefore, is that Zimbabwe is ready. Because if you have gazetted that market access offer, and actually this information was brought to our attention when we paid a courtesy call on the resident representative acting, then you are ready. So it means that it's not correct to be saying that Zimbabwe is not ready. If you have gazetted it, that's what it means. Yeah. And I also get the feeling that I think the secretariat is a bit slow. The colleagues there are a bit slow in responding to you from the tone of your. You know, sometimes it's not what you say; it's the tone that you use. You know, and the choice of words. Yes. So you've been working on this from April. You know, this sort of thing. Yes. But when I talked to them last week, they gave me the impression that it was done. For them, it was just transposition. Now, if you say transposition has been done, I need to cross-check that as well. But anyway, for purpose of this discussion, let us say we are almost there. I hope this can be done maybe within a week or latest a month, so that it's found out. But if you have gazetted it, then it means you are in. You're ready already. Yeah, actually, the summit decision, the assembly, when the assembly last met in February this year, Zimbabwe was mentioned as one of the countries which will participate in the next edition of the Guided Trade Initiative. If you check the decisions, it's written there at the highest level. So for it to have reached that level, it means things were in order. And I'm glad to hear what you have just said there. So domestication. Then compliance means that the regulatory authorities, such as the standards bodies, the customs authorities, the immigration authorities, implement the AFCFTA. They comply with the rules on a daily basis in their functions, day-to-day functions. Utilization means the private sector aggressively follows up trade and investment opportunities across the continent. Then enforcement means if there's a problem, you as Zimbabwe, you enforce your rights if anybody is breaching them, right? Either through the non-tariff barriers system or even directly through the dispute settlement system. Then public-private sector dialogue is extremely important so that government can put in place the policies that are required on the basis of the evidence, on the basis of the real problems which are brought to the attention of the government by the private sector, the users, the stakeholders, civil society as well. And then continuous improvement. If there are things to be learned, you learn them and you put them into practice. So ownership by stakeholders is extremely important. So as I said at the beginning, the AFCFTA is a tool and a foundation for the common African market because it already has the elements of the common market. A common market has got 4 essential elements: free movement of goods, of services, of persons, and of investment or capital. So we have got protocols on all these things, and it means that by implementing these protocols, as we are doing now, we are moving towards a common market, even if we don't know it. We are doing it even if we don't know it. Right. Now, lastly, there's something called the bicycle effect. Everyone here rides a bicycle, not so. So if you sit on your bicycle and you pedal, you move. But if you stop pedaling, it will stop and you'll fall off. All right. So there's something called the bicycle theory. That means that you need to continue working at this. If you are doing regional integration, if you are doing the AFCFTA, if you are doing SADC, if you are doing commercial, whatever it is you are doing, if you are doing policies as local administrations, whatever those policies are, you have to continue pedaling. Don't stop. Otherwise, it will crash. Right. So yes, so this is the most important slide. Of everything I have said, this is the most important one. Yes. So have courage and then be smart. That's what it takes to get things done. So thank you very much, everybody. In Swahili, they say asanteni. In my mother's language, they say mwevalemno. And then across the border, they say zikomo kwambiri. All right, over to you, Miss Shirley. Thanks so much.